Hey everyone, how we doing out there? My name is John and I build blasters. More specifically, I build DL-44 blasters from Star Wars. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about, well, we're spoiled in a lot of ways because we have more options than we've ever had in the past. And there's so many different varieties you can build, and there's so many options that are available to you, and it's all, you know, it's a buyer's paradise because, or builder's paradise, because you can build all sorts of level of blasters that you couldn't do even 2 years ago. But it can be confusing as well, and I know a lot of people have questions, and a lot of people get confused with the more details that are presented to you. So I just wanted to talk specifically about the Denix build and 3 different varieties that I build specifically. And here we'll just start from the, from the left to right. We'll start with the right-hand side. This is a Denix. They're all Denix based, as I said, but this is probably what most people are familiar with when they build a blaster. This is a basic Denix Mauser, as is, pretty much stock with the wood grips. And if you're going to buy a Denix to build on, I highly recommend using the wood grips. And the simplest reason is I've done the plastic as well, but they can come cracked right from the manufacturer. And it's just, these grips are only like $10 more for the upgrade on the Denix. So it's worth just paying the extra bucks and getting the wood grips. But this is the unmodified Denix. So this is just the Denix with the parts put on top of it, with the flash hider. This is a Han Solo variant as well. M19 scope, mount. Now, like I mentioned, this is just the basic Denix build with the parts attached to it, which is a beautiful replica in its own right. You know, everything works as it should, as the Denix does. And so this is just unmodified, you know, straight on. And to most people, you're not going to be able to see any difference unless they're pointed out. So let me just show some of the things that I do to improve it. So from the basic Denix, I offer a variety where I started a long time ago trying to improve upon the Denix and adding details to it where it lacked. And one of the things I looked upon doing was I got a resin C96 Mauser from Carillion Exports, I believe that's who sold it. And you know, it's a 1-to-1 Mauser, and so studying this, I noticed some details that I believed I could add to the Denix that it lacked. That would get it more to this while using the base that was made of metal and added the weight to it, you know. And one of the major things I noticed when I was upgrading, one of the first things I wanted to do was you can add the extraction mark, which you'll see right here, and then shaving down the top as well. But what I did to this Denix, opposed to this one here, was one of the things I did was, and I think it's important, is I slid the whole top forward. I modified it so you could slide the whole top forward, because with the Denix, for whatever reason, it doesn't sit all the way forward as it should with a regular Mauser, and it doesn't take much. It only needs to be slid a little bit forward. So by sliding it forward, it just gets it a little more in line. I mean, it's very minor. You wouldn't even be able to tell, I don't think. You can kind of, well, you're not gonna be able to see it on camera, I guess, but it is slid forward. It's slid forward by about 200 thousandths of an inch, which is, you know, like that much. But that allows the hammer to be more upright the way it should be. Another thing to do is I change out the trigger. So I designed up a trigger that is more in line to the actual C96. So on a Denix, it's going to have this kind of a trigger on it here. So then I sub in a little more accurate of a trigger. Now this is a Luke Skywalker blaster variant. I have another video that kind of talks about the different variants between the Luke Besbin and the Han Solo Besbin, and they're very minor. You can check out that video if you're interested, but basically it has a different light port. The mounts are a little different as well, and the flash hiders have a different weathering on it. But so when I upgrade, this is like my 7 mods, I call it. You know, it's again, it can get really confusing. So basically what I do is I slide the top forward, and then the coloring is going to be more accurate, where I show the silver, where the silver is going to be shining through more obviously. So I change out the grip screws, so it's got the proper echelon grip screws that the basic Denix doesn't come with. I add the Magplate release detail on the bottom. I even add a little shaving under here. I'm not sure if you can see it. This little detail right in here, which is on a real C96 as well. Denix comes with a stamping here for their identification, and there's a little stamping on this side as well, which I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see it. Yeah, there you go. And on this side here, on the basic one, you can see it over there as well. So I shave those off as well to clean it up. And these are all things you can pretty much do at home. The extraction mark you're not going to be able to do. I mill that in, but you can add the piece. So, I mean, the bolt does slide. And if you can't mill it in, you can just add that piece, shave it down and sand it down and add this piece on, glue it on top. It won't be reset in there, but it'll give the impression that you're going for. But mostly the biggest separation between these two is the trigger upgrade and sliding it forward, which again adds minor details, but it starts moving it in the right direction. And then I also shaved down the front here. I just cut off a little bit of the front, whereas on the Denix build I don't do that. And the reason being, again, on the Denix build, why I don't do it, I mean, because it is cut off. I've talked to some people and they've pointed out, and it's clear. But the problem if you cut off the front of the Denix, because the Denix is reset back, so if you cut off the front and then you put on the flash hider, it really makes it look stubby and short. So if you're not going to modify the Denix at all and you're going to put it on, I would recommend not just shaving off the sight and putting the flash hider on, because it's going to be more aligned to what it was in the film. So here you can see it here, you know, so that's not cut off at all. That's just shaving off the sight, putting on the flash hider, and there you go. But for this Luke Besbin, because I slid it forward, I don't want it to be projected out too far, so to be more accurate, I did cut off the front of it, so it sits a little more accurate as well. And then it sits on there. So it really, I mean, it's all these little details that improve it overall, right? So I mean, this is a perfectly beautiful blaster. You're good to go. And these are just minor details that improve the overall look, depending on how authentic you want it to be. And lastly, this is what I would call my OCD variant. This is a Han Besbin blaster. It's got the full light port on it. Now this one has over 20 mods done to it. It's going to have the same extraction mark milled in, but then I added, I shaved down the sides here. I add these little clippings in here, whereas you can see it on the real Mauser. It's shaved flat. It's going to have these little clippings in here, whereas the basic Denix doesn't have any of that done to it. See how it's little, you know, that needs to be shaved flat. This needs to be shaved off and milled in here. So that's what I did with my OCD version. I do add those clippings in here. And then I also add in, I mill that in. It's another minor detail that you can see right in here. And I also shaved this so it's a little more accurate as well. Where you can see on the C96 how it's got that. And then lastly, these are probably the most important. It's got the extraction plate on it. This has got all the mods that my 7 variant had. but then it goes to the next level. So for example, I add the lock frame. So it's got the lock frame on the back there, detail, which you'll see on a real Mauser as well. And again, the basic Denix. That's what that looks like there. It doesn't have that detail. So let's get this bad boy on. There we go. Yeah, so I got the lock frame on here, but then it's opening up the trigger guard. So it's these details in here where you shave it down, which adds a nice look to it. Again, all the Denix markings are shaved off that you're going to see on here. Opening up the lock frame, or the trigger guard, sorry, as you can see on a real C96. And let's go back to the basic Denix. And you're going to see it doesn't have that. So, you know, it's just minor things, but it's these minor things that improve the overall look, depending on what you're going for. And yeah, it's got the shave down here as well. The front has been cut off a little bit again, so the flash hider sits more appropriately on it. Yeah, the trigger works. The you know, everything works as it should. These are just minor improvements, and then I paint down where it should be blued on a real Mauser itself, and then the grips itself have been reshaped. And it's just minor work that you need to do. You need to shave in the top a little bit, just so they fit a little more so, because again the Denix, you know, it's casted to fit a Denix, so with the way it lips itself in here, the grips kind of lip itself forward. So you have to improve that look. So it's a little more in line to, again, these are a casting of it, a little more in line to the grip set that you'll find on a real Mauser. And it's not, I mean, it takes some time and it's a little bit of work, but it's well worth it if you have the time. And it's a great hobby project to do to improve it as well. And then I shave this down flat, add the markings in the back here. But yeah, it does improve the overall look. And this is, like I said, my OCD variant. And it brings out the details really nice. But yeah, that's basically the three things that you can do to it to improve it. The three variants, you know, to take your Denix to a new level and really create it. So sorry, this one here as well has a new hammer. So not only did I change the hammer out on the Denix Mauser, so there we go here. So I changed it out so it's a little more in line again. And by sliding the whole top forward, see the problem is if you don't slide the top forward, you can and you don't shave it down. That's how the Denix naturally sets, you know. But by shaving it forward and subbing in a new hammer and a new trigger, it's another small little step in the right direction that really improves the overall look and really sells it for what you're trying to go for. But it's beautiful. They're all beautiful props. You know what I mean? They're all gorgeous. So to each their own and how you want to go about it. I just wanted to show off the differences between the three that I do personally, and maybe by seeing this you'll have a better understanding on how you can go about building your own and improving maybe what you already have. So a lot of this stuff you could do at home. Again, certain milling aspects you probably, well, depending if you're a mill or not, you wouldn't be able to do, but you know, you can get away with, again, gluing on the extraction mark detail and doing a lot of this stuff with a Dremel. You know, you can accomplish a lot of this stuff with the Dremel. But yeah, so this is Han Solo's DL-44 blaster from The Empire Strikes Back that you see him carry throughout the film. Well, not throughout the film, because when he's in Hoth, he has a whole different blaster as well. And you actually see Luke carrying this one on Dagobah for a hot second when he pulls it on Yoda. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, you know, leave it down below, and hopefully I can answer them, or I can guide you to my own build thread that I have on RPF, which I think could be very helpful if you're interested in seeing just how I go about it in a more specific way. But anyway, hope everyone is doing well, and yeah, here we are. All three variants, you know, so they're all beautiful. And this is back to the basic Denix build, which is the first one that I ever built and pretty much fell in love with. And the obsession started here, and it's carried me over to here. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, I build all these with my own parts, you know, and just so you have an idea, this is a progress build. You can see it naked. So this has the whole top slid forward. I just put it on and added the parts to it. I use a resin flash hider because it's able to capture the details that I want, because it's very specific. It's very high density resin. It's very tough resin. If you throw it on the ground, I'm sure it'll break, but I wouldn't advise throwing any of these blasters on the ground. But let's teach your own. These blasters here, though, actually have multi-jet fusion mounts and scopes on them. This is a resin scope. I ordered this just to see the quality of it, and to be honest with you, I was blown away. I mean, these look like they're casted. It's amazing, to be honest with you. Like for the back scope, I'll do all these have resin, because the resin is able to capture the details that I need. Like this, you know, like the M19 details on there, and then this is a cool little detail I decided to add to all my blasters. I do it for all my builds depending on what build I'm working on, but so it's 5/21/80, and it's like a little Easter egg to represent a specific date and time that a particular movie was released. That means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to a lot of you out there as well. And it's because I couldn't see the serial number on there. I mean, good luck, and I could have just randomly used any other number. But I thought it'd be kind of a cool little treat to add something in there that represents the film itself, and it does so. So yeah, this is the blaster actually that I recommend most people to get when people ask me. I mean, the OCD one is great. It takes a long time to build. But if you just want to play around with it and constantly pull the hammer and trigger and have the overall appearance of what you're going for, I mean, the 7 mod one kills it. I mean, it really takes you there. You know, if you want to cosplay, like this one's perfect for cosplaying as well. You holster it and do all sorts of fun stuff with it. Well, whatever you consider fun stuff. For this one, I mean, you can cosplay with it as well, but the back here, my lock frame is resin. So if you're gonna be holstering it a lot, you know, and the trigger is painted, so if you're constantly pulling the trigger and snapping it, there's a good chance that, you know, it is painted, so the paint will probably chip. This I mean, it's resin, so it could easily come off. Well, I would assume, right? If you're gonna be holstering it and playing around. So this is what I basically suggest if you want the best that I can do, and if you want it as a display piece. And that's how that's what I use them for mostly, obviously, as I would assume most people do. And it fits the bill really well. But if you are someone that's just getting a blaster for the first time and you're not really familiar with all these, then the basic Denix is another option to go with. It's the most affordable one. If you're building it yourself, I mean, these Denix bases can be had for like $80 to $100 depending on where you get them. So then you put the parts on it, and it's very affordable in that sense. You know, and it meets all your needs. It's going to meet all your needs anyways. But as you get deeper into these blasters, I'm sure you're going to want a lot of these mods, so it can represent the best blaster that you can have on your shelf. And this is why I personally would always suggest the 7 mod one, because it's not going to have the lock frame on it. You're going to want to play with it and handle it a lot. You can snap the trigger as much as you want. So this is probably the most logical one just to mess around with and carry with and play with to get that out of your system. And it's also a great display piece as well. But yeah, so that's it. Ultimately, that's the 3 different versions of the Denix-based DL-44 blasters that you can tackle on your own and go about it. And each does a good representation of the blaster, and depending on what your OCD level is, it'll definitely meet your grade, I'm sure. And you can go higher up too. I mean, there's some amazing builders out there. There's some amazing replicas that are available now, and it's only going to get better as we move forward with technology. And we're in a good time. We're in a very good time to be a Star Wars fan. So especially if you're an original trilogy fan. There's people like myself out there and others that, you know, go down spend a lot of hours and a lot of time trying to build the best thing that's possible and the most accurate thing that's possible. So you guys are doing all right out there. Okay, well, hope you're enjoying yourself, hope you're staying safe, and it's a bit of a rambling video, but I think we get the gist of it. All right, take care guys, peace out.